È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
Littere communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. Littere communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete a Littere communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti a...
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this encounter on the Canticle of the Creatures of St. Francis. I'd like to thank our guests first and foremost. I'll present to you shortly. On this first day of the meeting, on talking about the essential and on being beggars when faced with the essence, as Pope Francis has asked us to be in his inaugural message that he sent us, we'd like to concentrate on the theme of the Canticles of St. Francis as part of the celebrations for the 8th centenary of the death of St. Francis of Assisi, an event of worldwide importance that is linked with the celebration of the 2025 Jubilee celebrations. This giant of sanctity that continues to fascinate people of all ages and religions has been the real protagonist for the meeting of the meeting a few times. I recall the St. Francis exhibition 2019, the Cum Tucte exhibition on the alliance between man and nature, following in the footsteps of St. Francis last year. There were many theatrical performances and events organized alongside the Custodia of the Holy Land. This year, you can also visit an exhibition dedicated to the Canticle in the Children's Village. Today, we find ourselves before the great work of art that St. Francis left to his friends and that he composed at the end of his life. It's the most sublime canticle of Christian spirituality, a groundbreaking text to be passed around the streets. Rondoni calls it a breath text that will to be shared in good times and hard times alike. A prose poem that is sung, and we've all sung it, and it's called prayer. We wish to identify with and live the experience narrated by St. Francis, to approach and rediscover the essentials of the experience of praising God and the sense of universal brotherhood and love for creation, which the Canticle delivers to us. I'd like to present our guests straight away. Father Guidalberto Bormolini, a priest, monk, anthropologist, and theologian, professor of various master's degree courses in Padua and Florence universities. spiritual assistant in sickness and dying with the All Life is Life Association, author of many books. He now lives with the Reconstructionist community at the monastery of San Leonardo al Palco in Prato, which is now a spirituality center with many activities. Then Davide Rondoni, a poet and a writer, is well known to the audience of the meeting because over the years he's been one of its most faithful protagonists. He's the president of the National Committee for the 8th centenary of the death of St. Francis of Assisi. Thank you very much to both of you, and a warm round of applause. Our guests have written a text, and the reflections we'll hear about it on this are compiled in this text, which is Living the Canticle, the cosmic spirituality of St. Francis, and of the Misterio di Padova edition, which recompiles not only their reflections but also some beautiful illustrations by Luca Salvagno, and it details some of these verses of the Canticle. Let's start with Father Bormolini. You say you approached the Canticle by praying in the words of the so-called Poverello of Assisi, the poor man of Assisi, to feel in the source of this composition. We'd like to, wanting to give the word to the fathers of the church. So you load yourself with all the richness of our fathers, of the mystics, and of so many mystic monastic traditions, so that they may reveal to us how to live this praise today. What are you going to give us today about this, from this research of yours? First of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here with the good friend of mine, and to have met so many friends here. Because I think that what counts in spiritual life is the concrete experiences that you live, to meet people, to see their faces, or even to see sunsets, sunrises, beautiful things in nature, as St. Francis did. I liked what Davide's proposal of living the Canticle. The risk to try and intellectualize this too much is always there, but it must be a concrete encounter with other people. This is what St. Francis gave us. It's something very concrete, much like his own life was very concrete yet very simple. It's something to live by. And he'd often ask his people to sing this canticle as a kind of conversation, because life changes. And by listening to it, we realize that things change, and that I wanted to start from there to understand what could it say to me, what could it mean to me in my own existence. As far as, I encountered it when I was quite young, and I've encountered it many times, and in this case I rediscovered it, because I think that when we're faced with these words, it can be quite beautiful. We become followers of the resurrection, of something that renews, and this canticle needs to be renewed as a concrete experience to give some answers to the questions of our times. There are many things, I think, that are of a shocking modernity, even though they're very provoking, and it's quite a notable work, as we chatted earlier. Unfortunately, if we look around, many of us feel like we have a lot to say about our times, and yet sometimes we should look back to the ancients for answers. And St. Francis sings with all creatures. So even just this was always quite striking to me, because I've always had a deep love for nature, for the mystery of nature. I was taught this when I was young, but then as I studied the kind of Franciscan phenomenon, this relationship with nature, with Christ, the whole new world opened up to me, because it's clear that we are the children of a very romantic idea of a relationship with nature. But in St. Francis' time, nature was an enemy. Nature was the one who did as much evil as possible. There was storms, hail, the beasts that ate your crops. This was nature. So even from there, St. Francis sings with nature. And so what next? This is also important. It's as if he entered into a deep relationship with everything that happened, and he discovered it from another point of view. In a world in which it was problematic to do this, because on one side there was the question of nature that's evil, that harms the poor peasants who live on their land. There's also those who thought that nature, was an evil, that creation, that all that surrounds us is evil, which is an interesting phenomenon, because sometimes we're a bit superficial in how we say that things don't convince us. We should also be honest and say that it's very convincing, but there's something that's not quite right. Because St. Francis this is a very attractive kind of discussion, as if spirituality was something detached from what we live. And this is a problem that's very modern, that we often have ourselves. It's becoming kind of a hobby for people who are bored with life. And yet he harkens back to the world of nature, to creation, the divine creation in its own marvelous dimension, and contrasts it with very concrete spirituality. And this has often been identified as quite a radical view, but if you understand him through and through, it's diametrically opposed as a point of view. It's in love with creation that he is a part of, but that reveals a certain mystery that you only can begin to understand as you know part of the Christian tradition. And that's one that the fathers of the church developed quite a lot. The theme of brotherhood, of cosmic brotherhood, is present in Christian theology. It's a common theme among the fathers. St. Ambrose said that everything that exists creates unity, and all the elements are given come from a single element of unity and of peace. So we are within a relationship with animate and inanimate things that's very interesting. And it was to say that even inanimate beings sympathize in a cosmic way with us. So he entered into this brotherhood and sisterhood with nature. It's not that he lived nature because he studied it in any great works. He entered into this dimension in this fundamental unity, and he's inspired by it. Because everything that was created says that it goes along with being human and forming a perfect harmony and perfect unity comprised of different people. We're within a kind of symphony that we're a part of, and it's part of us. And so, perhaps with this text, it has many reasons, many different levels of meaning, this text. And it could just be that they're all valid, all these interpretations. St. Francis entered into a relationship with creation in which he's part of a symphony. By giving his contribution to it, he's thankful for what he's received, and he asks the rest of creation, and thanks the rest of creation, and he asks it all to be thankful along with him. As human beings, we are a key point of creation. Being human is being a cornerstone of all the creation that's visible and invisible. We've got a key role in of being a custodian. We need to be the spokespeople of all creation, and yet also bring the divine voice to all of creation, in order that all of creation can take part in this. Substantially, we are participants, and we can bring creation to its true origin. Freedom is what makes human beings unique, and it's a key part of Christianity. It's a fundamental point of the Christian message, particularly because humans have followed creation. It's strange, but we are the people who can mend all these disconnects. Gregory of Nice, a great father of the church, said that being human is a unity of earth and the heavens, and through which we can explore all of creation. We've got a role in the face of creation. Substantially, we are a microcosm, and I want to say micro-God, with the point of the junction between creation and the divine. All of creation takes a almost shocking form when Pope Francis uses the term beautiful. He uses it outside of this context when referring to liturgical things that mention the body and blood of Christ. Perhaps we can understand, there's not a direct theology in this text. There's even more than this. There's a theological experience behind it. He feels this presence of Christ in life, in the world that surrounds him, and he says, Christ is everywhere. His influence extends everywhere. And Francis lived this. He sees that he wants all creatures to sing this song. And the mystery of the incarnation is something shocking. So, I understand the fact that people don't understand it, because it's very hard to understand. You can't understand it. You can only fall in love with it, as Francis did. You can't explain it. And like all the most beautiful things, you can't explain them. But you just need to live it, like Francis did, in such a manner that you can start this experience that started since the fall. And the fall is an interesting story, starting from Adam and Eve and falling from a divine state where they used to walk in holy Eden, but thanks to freedom, it's better to say thanks to freedom rather than because of freedom and blame it. And in the letter to the Romans, it said that in a desire to be with human beings, we're brought back to our original state. To think a text attributed to Macarius says that when we're far from God, among the heavens and all the creatures, everything was broken. Because with he who was given everything as king, he became a slave of this evil influence. And so, with this, there's some original things that need to be discussed. So, people like Paul tell us that we need to go back to our original state, because it's a key component of growth. It's a key condition that needs to be changed. Saint Athanasius said that it's in this spirit that the word and the glory and the divinity begins. So being human, he's called to enter into divine life, and he brings creation with him. So what's the path we need to follow? How do we live it? So the mystics help us here, and we need to be careful here. I love taking an anthropological look on it, so look at what others say about it. Because Christianity is true because it's universal, it's ancient. Sometimes it's said that Christianity is the oldest religion. It's a spiritual fact. If you look back to what the fathers say, that divine seeds can be found in all regions, in all places, in all wisdoms. And that's why it's the most ancient one. So in the great Indo-European tradition, but not only, particularly but only, there's a reflection of us in everything that exists. We're composed of everything that exists, and it's reflected onto us. Because within us, there are suns, stars, moons, and all elements. And the mystics understood this, the wise understood this. There's some beautiful lines that have been written that in me there are great rivers, there are great mountains, there's vast plains, all the landscapes are inside me. And that's because, and all the mystics say this, that within us there's a great attraction, because within us there are suns, stars, moons, elements, and they come out through us. Basil the Great said that around the heart there's the echo of all of creation. And the ancient Greeks were kind of a fan of this theory as well. It's that that all the world is reflected in you, and that within you, through what's within you, you reach the world. Many Russians, in Russian theory, they recount about themselves that Russian pilgrims would say that they were stupefied by their own bodies, and they would mentally try and see what they could do with it. And, Great Father said that you enter into your own body and you search for places inhabited by divine powers, because within us there's something mysterious, and our organs are kind of are reflections of something cosmic. And in the words of a scholar who greatly influenced my thought, he said that there's a relationship between the cosmic and the body, and there's much evidence for it. It's very clear. There's an interesting kind of game here that you can play, that the knowledge of all peoples allows us to penetrate the cosmos, because it reveals a mysterious aspect about our bodies, and there's relationships between the sun and the moon, and we need to transform the chaos of our lives into a cosmos to such a point that we enter into the mystery of creation. Perhaps this is the road of St. Francis. He says, understand this, that within you there's a second microcosm in which there's a sun, the moon, stars. So do you see that we find an echo of a very important theme in the Canticle of St. Francis? Do you know that there's some classifications in the Christian mystics, many kingdoms in which the elements would cross? I mean, there was the stars, the moon, and the sun. There's a mystic of the 800s who used to recount, and it was a strange character, this person who wrote this. He says that the night of the 4th of October, which is St. Francis Day, and this has always struck me, I was praying, and my spirit was taken up to the highs of the heavens, and there the Lord showed me the suns, the firmament of the sky. He showed me the sun, the planets, and many things that I can't explain. So understand that these are very precise mystical experiences. A door between the earth and the heavens is opened. Our body is the temple of the Spirit, and that's where you live the experiments. Isaac the Syrian said that the way to heaven is hidden within your soul. Wash yourself of sin and you'll find the stairway to heaven. That there's a doorway to heaven within us and that we need to pass through. When he says that I've passed through the elements, and at night I saw the moon and the sun, and they were all shining, and it was divine. In medieval symbology, you said the sun is Christ, the moon is the Virgin, the stars are the angels, and then there was earth, wind, and fire. Because the ordering of the heavens with their layers reveals something fascinating that has fascinated a Nobel Prize-winning chemist. He said the 4 elements are metaphorical symbols that reflect fundamentally human structures and remain firm among all different cultural contexts. Many people say this, the Greeks, the Arabs, ancient India, the Christians, they always say that they seem to express a mystic principle in which they represent not a metaphorical representation, but a mystic one of the world. So there's a very interesting booklet that von Balthasar talks about that's about symbols. And he says that things that require fundamental strength, these symbols are of such power, but they're ambiguous. If you point the symbols to Christ, they'll take you to Christ. If you point them to you, they'll take you somewhere else. It's sort of a strong ambivalence of the spiritual world. And that's why the sign of the cross saves us, because it gives us direction. It points us to where we want to go. Because the powers that are involved with us and around us, they're power, but they're accessible. Von Balthasar says that we can use them to bring them to Christ through the divine mystery. The cross indicates us the way to heaven. Because like, climbing on a rocket, you have to decide where it's going, because maybe you could use it to go to the heavens or to use it to destroy yourself. And this is why the cross saves us, because it guides the way. And St. Albert the Great said that Christ's wounds represent the 4 elements. They're gateways, and then you arrive to the 5th gateway, the heart. So to conclude, how do we live this canticle? the way that these so many peoples and Francis have understood, who sums it up in a very interesting experience by singing within us this canticle, but by basing it on our existence, that is, to go back to the original source of everything, the original spring. Where did the cosmos come from? Where does the word originate? The word isn't a conversation, it's a harmony. So many great cosmologists have said that it was created by a song. And it's very interesting, this theory. The breath of God brought life into the universe. And this teaches us something very fascinating. You know, I say that we need to get rid of this theory of Big Bang. It's very difficult because scientists have realized it's not a bang, it's a harmonic wavelength. Big bangs don't create, they destroy. It's song that creates. It's these harmonic waves. They talk about a theory of a big song. And this original big song was something that St. Francis spoke about. He says that to try and reconcile different strands of physics, he says there's a number of strings that emit notes, a symphony. But the scientists I've spoken about say we don't know who's played this music. And wisdom helps us understand the world and has united divine things with the concrete and with the ether, and that the word creates divine harmony. You know, this original song is what underlines everything. And in fact, scientists can justify the Big Bang because of a background radiation, but it's cosmic music that's behind it. It's a cosmic canticle. That's what Francis heard, and he replied that that's exactly what we've got to do. Everything sings and shouts for joy. It's not a language. It's not words that we can define, that we can't hear them. We need to ask ourselves. We're in a world of sound, and when things don't go well, you know, many friends of mine that I've worked with, they want to be evolutionists, but they play the same game. They add discordant notes to create more discord, and thinking that they're helping. But St. Francis gave us the clue. Let's sing the canticle together, within us, inside us. Let's hear it. Let's hear too that everything shouts for joy around us, and let's respond with our own song. The mantra, the prayers. We need to learn to speak to everyone here, and I know that there's many Christians here, and I'm in love with Christ who's incarnate. But we need to learn to talk to anyone, to communicate, and the young people need to learn how to understand this powerful voice. We should teach them to sing this song, this prayer of the heart, and understand together, live together this canticle, and by doing so, the Lord of the worlds will be able to dominate once again and reign over this confused world and show us a way out, and will have us sing alongside him, which is ecstasy, the greatest experience a human can live.
Davide, so help us to go into this masterpiece of poetry that is the Canticle of St. Francis. What does this canticle put on the scene for us? And thinking about what the Father's brought with us and what can we live of it today. So first of all, thanks and for the invitation. Good evening, everybody. I'll fly a little bit lower than Father did. I'm just a poet. I'm also a Christian from the Romagnola rite, which is, but we Romagnolis Christians are very happy because we, having had Francis with us, we can eat a piadina and go to heaven, I would say, because if loving God means despising the world, it's a great trick. It's a fraud. A great poet said, "With the Spirit, we go up to God with if it's just your spirit that goes up, leaving your body behind, then it's a great misfortune. So Francis left this canticle to his friends, and we say when we say about the friars that we think is something a little bit clerical about it, but in reality, the friar means brother. There's bros, there's companions, and maybe Dante. When he speaks of St. Francis, he puts in this great company of young people with him who follow him for a youthful impulse. To his friars, his brothers, he left this poem, this rhythmic prose. So one of the most modern poets came and wrote about this. He concludes that it was pretty much when he was dying, that when he was going back to becoming nothing or earth, and in that moment he raised up his song. And he raised up his song for his friends. I think we can, for my artistic motives, I can say this strikes me a fault that this saint didn't leave just a rule or a testament or writings, but he left a work of art. He left a song. Because the most adequate words for life speak in a poetical way. It's not just the poetry of the poets, but also, as we heard now, it's a speaking that puts you at the level of life, not at the level of chatting or slogans or standard language that can poison even religious environments, but a poetic language. He gave this gift to his friends. Effectively, if I think of many people who've signed my life, who've marked it, I think it's because they did it with their example that they struck me. But also they left me some words. Words are important. And for this, he leaves us a canticle, because if you get the words wrong, you get life wrong. If you possess it because somebody else gives it to you, the most adequate words for seeing the world, then maybe your life can be adequate. So all great educators, including Don Giussani, said, don't worry about understanding everything straight away. Start by repeating some words, because those will guide you into reality. If instead you just put the words of the world in your mouth, you'll live like everybody else. So, like you know, Francesco wasn't called Francesco; he was called Giovanni. They called him Francesco because he was daughter of Francesca, a famous French originator merchant who came to Assisi. The sources tell us that Francis he sang a bit in French because that woman, and this is my theory, my supposition, it's very obvious that, like all mums, she probably sung him little lullabies, whatever, in French. And while she was humming or singing away to him with the poems of that time, which are those things that we call, like the troubadours, we think of them, a great school of poetry that revolutionized European culture, that's passed from a France that was certainly influenced by Irish monasticism, and also Arab influences, and then from France it moves itself into Sicily, becomes a Sicilian school, and then a Tuscan school, and then Bologna, and then Dante. What do these troubadours find? What do they sing? That they had many of them became monks because they had such a strong theological effort. They said, was it love songs about women who are already married or were far away? It seems a terrible misfortune, but it seems a little bit unlikely that all of their poems should be about women who are unavailable. So what are these poets really putting on the scene then? When you think that came from this land and then to Francis, it's something that's relevant as well. That the nobility of a man, that this gentileness, doesn't depend on having blue blood or from a sword or from wealth, but that The human being shows their gentleness when they love something they don't possess, when they realize that they love something that isn't theirs, that the woman who's far away, who's married to someone else. This question that distinguishes love from possession, a little theme that's pretty relevant today, let's say. This was put into culture in the first time in a clear way by the monks. What is the poverty of Francis? The poverty for which this man starts before dying to sing this song, saying, above all, altissimo, the highest, the most high, the sense of disproportion. The most high, this sense of disproportion is a key thing in humanity. He calls himself the little one. And he finishes indeed with the word humilitate, be humble. So what links the highest, the most high with humility? The fact that the world is not yours, that the world belongs to another, that the creatures are appreciable not because you love nature or because nature is lovable, because nature isn't very lovable sometimes, as many great poets realized, even Lucretius, Leopardo, Mario Luzzi. If you call nature your mother, one other time you'll have to call a stepmother, because it's very, very cute seeing the little deer that passes above the road. But what about a pancreatic tumor or a volcano that sweeps everybody away? So nature is neither good or evil in itself. It depends upon the gaze that you look at it with. What is it a sign of? Of whose is it? Because if nature is mine, it could be even my worst enemy. Francesco sees in nature, in the creatures, as he called it, as the sign of another, the property of another. And so it's for that they're lovable. And it shows his sanctity, his nobility, loving something that isn't his. This, we note dramatically, all of us, our children, our sons, they're yours, but they're not yours. Even the woman who's with you isn't yours. If you don't get to understanding this, there is no gentleness in life. So Francesco, seeing all this, he put these things in an extraordinary manner in the Canticle, linking the creator, the creature, and the creator. So Francis is sometimes portrayed as an extremist, but he's the one who saved us from an extremist, from a very seductive spiritualism. But it's not today the God of Christian. It's sort of an idea of mind, a superior mind, of spirit, that compared to which the body, illness, everything becomes despised. And so everything tends towards an abstraction of a God that we're not sure if it's our mind or not. But instead, this fundamental element, this poetic element, because the poets always put this in the scene, the difference between love and possession, which is the root of poverty. Because poverty in Francis isn't miserableness. In fact, that's what the Lord says. Thank goodness you're poor. In fact, the Franciscans always were deeply involved in works of charity. Saint Bernardino of Siena, one of the greatest economists in the 1400s, was a Franciscan. Banks were born from the Franciscans because reality is to be loved, not to be despised. But it's not yours. The experience of poverty and of this accident is this accident that comes to you when you realize that your sons are not yours. This is the poverty. It's not misery. It's not having nothing. So it's not a moralistic being offended at whoever's rich. It's not that you might go to the Pope like somebody did, saying, why do you speak of the poverty all the time when you live in the most beautiful building in Rome? If poverty was misery, you'd be that would be hypocrisy. But he doesn't say that. Francis doesn't say that because poverty isn't that. As to John Giussani, who's a great reformer of the church, like St. Francis, there are people who want to form a group of friends that serve the church. So you don't understand Giussani or even St. Francis. There are people who want to make a group, who want to see the church, who want to build the church, and they did that. So the other element of this canticle that's amazing from a poetical point of view is that evidently Francis is a great poet because he comes from that tradition. He had it in his blood, and he cultivated it to the point that we realize that the adjectives that he uses are super precise. Water is humble and chaste. Fire is jocund. It's a perfect description of things. And it's also perfect the distinction that he makes. First there's wind, which spreads seeds around, and then there's the earth. So a prodigious context, full of marvels. But I'll join on to what we're saying now. One thing on poverty, because the meeting is talking about the essential, thanks to McCarthy's phrase. Because what is the essence? What is the essential? It's not one thing instead of another thing. Because if the essential is one thing instead of another, that would mean that life isn't a cosmos. The essential isn't that this is more essential than the other. It's that there's essential in everything. I need to discover the essential in everything. The essential is what St. Francis helps you find, that when you are humble in front of the Most High and that things are not yours, this is the essential. And so for this, all things in our life, in all of them we can discover the essential, even in red wine, even in an evening spent in company. It's not that the essential is a thing that's more serious than other things. It's not that the discourse of a monk is more essential than the smile of a beautiful girl. All of these things contain the essential. Otherwise, it would just become a moralism or a pauperism if it's one thing instead of another. In Francis, you see this clearly. The root of poverty is this. I believe that we need to wake up every morning with a mantra, like he said, like Father said, saying altissimo with this final U from the local dialect of the time. Altissimo, the Most High. So the disproportion of you in front of the power that created the world. And we should finish that this power that created the world, we call it the Big Bang. You can discuss about that. I say that when at CERN in Geneva they invited some of us poets to talk to the physicists, and they explained a bit about the Big Bang with time and space expanding out. In reality, Dante, and I'll soon finish. Dante had seen the Big Bang in the Paradiso. There's a volume that expands. The universe expands, and he reached it. And he added, giving something to the physicists that didn't know how to respond. There's this strange explosion in which we are, unlike every other explosion, accelerates. If you light a firework, it sort of goes off and then falls in on itself. But there's a movement that accelerates. So where's this strength coming? This force that's pushing it. So people talk about superstring, supersymmetry. Instead, the love that moves the sun and other stars. This is the substance of reality. It's not something romantic. So this is why we need to correspond to this energy of the universe, and the song needs to correspond. As a great French poet said, "There's a song in the world, there's a music in the world, but if you don't sing, you won't hear it." It's a song not only of the lips, a song of the heart, a song of all of yourself. Dante, who doesn't ever make a mistake on this, and is very relevant, and also something that I need to work on. People say that when Dante, in the Divine Comedy, it gives a great homage to Francis. So there's always some messes. There's Dominicans versus Franciscans. So Dante has St. Thomas say, so St. Dominic says, it's not enough to say Assisi. It's not enough to say Assisi, as a play on the words there. We need to look to the east. Orient, obviously, is obviously the east, where the sun rises. The Alter Christus, which is what St. Francis was called, because the strength of his proposal. But it also means another thing. And I'll say it in this moment in which people want to tell us that there's a war within East and West, when instead there's a war between supermarkets, there's a war for money. It's not a spiritual and cultural war. We need to know how to distinguish these things. And we, Italy, Europe once upon a time, Italy certainly, we are the land where East and West meet each other, because monasticism is an Oriental phenomenon. Christianity was one. A certain type of spirituality that is not reduced to fortune, to success. Christianity, of which the monasticism is part, and think about in Protestantism in Holland and America, there is no monasticism. So that's interesting. Francis should be listened to not because he begins a interreligious debate or cardinals versus others. He goes there to convert others. Why does he go there? Because he's a man of God. He's a monk, like this Sufist monks go to the Sultan. We're the land of encounters of these things. If we're not this, we're not anything. And so be careful. Certainly, I prefer St. Francis to Biggie. But we're not in a world of contrast between East and West, because otherwise Francis would have impossible that he could have existed. We are the land of the encounter of these great spiritualities. So Don Giussani taught us this in many ways, and here's the way the war is. Like the Pope said, there's a world war in different parts. What is our task? What is our role? It's not that we have the role of spectators. We have a very important role. And this moment, I insist, when people talk about East versus West, we're another thing. We need to remember to do it. And thankfully, Francis, who everybody likes, in these months I've been working for his 8th centenary, it is something really nice. And when you say St. Francis, everybody's happy. And then when in a time when you can't say mum, but you have to say parent one, when everything's in discussion, St. Francis, you can say it and everybody says, oh, that's nice. So it's a great opportunity for spirituality. So spirituality in the sense of maybe lifting your heart up a bit, but about sort of leaving it down with all the struggles we have. But so this is a great opportunity for all of us, in fact, to have a figure like this who puts in play these so relevant things, despite being so antique, so ancient, and remaining in his mystery, his absolute mystery. So I was in Greece for other things, and you can see the corridor of Greggio, where with his cell at the end. If you look into that, you realize that you'll never exhaust the mystery of that man. So, before finishing our encounter with the reading of the Canticle by Davide, I want to have our last question to our guests. So the question for Father Bormolini is this. Even based on what Davide has just been saying now, which St. Francis accumulates the world, is common across the world. What is the perennial relevance of his integral vision? Sometimes we extrapolate one aspect to another. What is the factor that unifies the power of St. Francis? What is this the heart of this marvelous harmony with God, with the creature, and with man himself.
La vita.
Life is very mysterious. In fact, just the fact that the Canticle ends with humility, with death, with forgiveness, it teaches us a lot. And in life, you often remain wounded. It's inevitable. And you can't resolve the problem by just ignoring it. If we want to live this integral experience, you have to recognize that within it there's vulnerability. And even that has been incarnate because there's vulnerability behind it. Our civilization is one that we often call materialist. But in most recent times it's clear it's a kind of hyper-spiritualist society. Because in the end, even consumerism is a religious model, fundamentally speaking. It's just that everything is moved to different levels. In fact, the fact of excluding that we're mortal and that we suffer and that we grow old, it's this hyper-spiritualist civilization that pretends we're not all these things. These models that get proposed in Hollywood, that we're eternally young and happy, but the incarnation teaches us something differently. We need to live it to the end. We need to live all of it. And if we want to sing the canticle within ourselves, we have to let ourselves be wounded by life. Because a closed heart doesn't sing. We often say, in it, there's an expression that wounds have lips, and that these wounds speak to us. Christ's wounds speak to us. They reach out to us, and we need to let ourselves be wounded by life and by love, as much as Christ did. Because life is a gift. Anthropologists, some of them, which is a theory that's not followed by everyone, is that we are humans when we are givers. But sometimes we can behave unhumanly. It's only when you're a giver that you're a human. And we need to conclude with two important things: the hyper gift, that is forgiveness. Within forgiveness, there's a hyper gift, and death is the second thing. Is the final gift. Because to live in an integrated fashion with the world, we need to follow these jumps. And I liked what Davide said on the essence, because thanks to the incarnation, we can see the divine everywhere. There isn't anything in which the divine isn't present. Everything sings. Everything sings. Even the things we didn't expect would sing, things we couldn't imagine. But if we sing our part, then even then can we understand that death itself is part of the song. It's the final part, and that death is almost like a kiss, as some say about Moses. They say that Moses died with God's lips touching his. But we need to open our mouth. Think about when you kiss and you give a closed mouth. I hope I don't scandalize anyone here. It's terrible. And we often respond with a closed mouth to the kiss of God that would love to fill us with His divine breath, and that changes everything. Because why is the sunset the most beautiful part of the day when the sun dies? Why is the most beautiful part of the forest in the autumn when the leaves die? Because the stars we see are beautiful over our head, but why is it a falling star that makes us stop in our tracks? Because beauty is fleeting. There's something changing. Ratzinger said that the encounter with beauty can become something that strikes us, that makes us open our eyes. And this is truly revolutionary. Open your heart by letting yourself be wounded, by being together with people, by being incarnate, by accepting this through to the end. And thus to sing with an open heart along with Him. The cosmos are sustained thanks to our song. The Hebrews said that until while the Torah is sung, the world still lives, and we need to answer to the world and sustain the world with our song. And we answer to this divine kiss. We open our mouth, we open our hearts, we let ourselves be wounded by life, and we understand that you can die with your lips touching God's, breathing with Him, because in this kiss, this embrace, you sing together. Think as if the last gift we make is to share our breath with His, to join, to become one. You know, our spirits would join, would embrace. The angels would be awestruck, because the angels were dumbstruck by the incarnation. They didn't believe it. They'd see and they'd be left marveled by what humanity is capable of, that because of the incarnation is capable of engaging this divine kiss, this connection with the embrace, with the divine, and it's truly worth it, living and dying.
Davide, you spoke of the reality as a sign in Francis. Can you help us deepen the culture of the sign to which the Canticle of the Creation belongs, and its importance for us today? So I'm happy that meeting found this Bormolini as our friend. This little collaboration is great, because I think he's got a lot to tell us from what he said even now. We are used to thinking that signs are functional symbols, like press here, and then something else happens. Instead, as the great artists have always realized, for this reason art is important, because art is the place of sign, of symbol. Let's not make too much distinctions. You said that you became a grandma to Victorio. The little grandson of Letizia. If you ask her how much do you love your grandson, she won't say, "Oh, I love him 2 kilometers worth or 50 kilos worth." You'd say infinitely. There's a little problem that neither I, not even good Victoria, will ever see the love of Letizia. We won't see it along. You can't put it in a vase. We can't see it. Does that mean it doesn't exist? Or that you can recognize it through signs, because she's patient, even more than the mum, perhaps. The most important things in life, we don't see them: friendship, love, pain. Does that mean they don't exist? We don't measure them. We can't measure them. So how do we know them, therefore? Through signs. And signs are important because, on one side, they're not obligatory. They leave the freedom to man, to the human being. So they don't impose themselves. The most important things in life, including God, we don't see them. They don't impose themselves. They ask to be known through signs. And signs always have a bit of ambiguity that's enhanced by our own freedom, because a sign isn't automatic. But without signs, we don't recognize, we don't know the most important things. So think of the Rite of the Little Prince. Said the essential is invisible to the eyes. No. The essential is also invisible to the eyes, because love is invisible. But if there weren't signs, weren't visible signs, we wouldn't be able to know these things. So the culture of the sign, which is this idea that the meaning of their important things, we find them through reading signs, which make us understand on one side we can't measure these things, they aren't ours, but that the relationship we can have them depends on our attention to signs. Not only Red Sky Night, Shepherd's Delight, but signs in life. We all are a bit shocked when we see when we see people, when you hear about somebody who'd killed their wife and children, and people say, "Hey, he seemed a nice person," and you think, "What? How did you not notice?" So distraction makes us incapable to read signs, and so can't see the things that are most important. The culture of the sign in Francis was like the air that he breathed, because the medieval was completely a culture of signs. Now we have a culture of brands, of symbols. You think you see a smile, you think of Amazon, but it's a trademark. That's not a sign. The trademark is the sign isn't a brand. Sorry, that if I see a yellow rose on the table, I think somebody thinks you still love me, but it's yellow, it's not red. So it is. So signs need interpreting. So to keep it short, this is very important that we don't forget it. In fact, in life, friends, what are they for? To help us read signs. What do you do with your friend? Money? What do you ask your friend? Money? You ask him to read the signs of life. True friends are those who help you read the signs of life. When you're a bit confused, it's because you don't read the signs. And a friend who's got an eye that's a bit clearer or greater experience than yours can help you see the signs. And this is the true foundation of friendship. So something that Alberto said before, it's not a chance, it's not by chance that this canticle finishes in the last bit with death, like we said, sister death. So do you remember what happened in Palermo? When the boat sank, two the richest men in the world drowned like the poorest migrants from Africa. That's a sign. Because death is a leveler, and it's true. If you forget it, something happens to you. But the Canticle of the Creatures of Creation finishes with a dizzying part. So it's praise the Lord, not those who don't sin, who are perfect, who are good, who are intelligent, but those who forgive, those who pardon for your love. Forgiveness is the most gratuitous and free and sort of senseless action. You don't do it because there's something to be gained, and you're not obliged to do it. Today, Peter Balla was saying that civil forgiveness is difficult. Francis is referring to a civil forgiveness. He's not talking about a forgiveness between two individual people. It's one of the last things that he did was to make the peace between a count and a bishop in the area. So there you have the idea that pardon is the most free act. In nature, there is no forgiveness because it breaks the chain of necessity. It's a completely free act. So I think today, when everyone wants to reduce everything to algorithms, to mechanisms or biology, Francis says, no, it's freedom. Human nature is freedom, and just putting into play something that in nature isn't there. And this is extraordinary. You just need to look around. It is so relevant because forgiveness, but without forgiveness, that there wouldn't even be a family, and history wouldn't go ahead. Society gets the cancer of war if there's no forgiveness. So that the greatest thing that you can do is when you pardon. That's what the Canticle teaches us. Davide, let's read it. O Most High, all-powerful, good Lord God, to you belong praise, glory, honor, and all blessing. Be praised, my Lord, for all your creation, and especially for our brother Sun, who brings us the day and the light. He is strong and shines magnificently. O Lord, we think of you when we look at him, Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Moon and for the stars, which you have set shining and lovely in the heavens. Be praised, my Lord, for our brothers wind and air and every kind of weather by which you, Lord, uphold life in all your creatures. Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Water, who is very useful to us, and humble and precious and pure. Be praised, my Lord, for Brother Fire, through whom you give us light in the darkness. He is bright and lively and strong. Be praised, my Lord, for Sister Earth, our Mother, who nourishes us and sustains us, bringing forth fruits and vegetables of many kinds, and flowers of many colours. Be praised, my Lord, for those who forgive, for love of you, and for those who bear sickness and weakness, in peace and patience. You will grant them a crown. Be praised, my Lord, for our sister Death, whom we must all face. Woe to those who die in mortal sin. I praise and bless you, Lord, and I give thanks to you, and I will serve you all in all humility.
Nacque al mondo.
A son was born in the world. For these words, Dante Alighieri, the greatest Italian poet, alludes to the birth of St. Francis. Francis is so lively to walk alongside man after so many centuries. The Canticle is his testimony in words. I think it's thanks to our guests that we have discovered today the Canticle of the creatures, and that we can seek in ourselves the source of that song that allows us to heals us from blindness and makes the simple fact of life and of living an art and a unique adventure. So I thank you all from our hearts. We thank our guests so much, Father Bormolini and Davide Rondoni. I invite you all to construct the meeting by sustaining it. Our life is made for something great, and we as Christians, like in the Middle Ages, we construct cathedrals, helping each other by sustaining the meeting, giving at the donor ora points. Thank you all, and have a nice dinner.
Civiltà dell'amore, fratelli e sorelle, costruite senza stancarvi mai questa civiltà. Lavorate per questo, pregate per questo, soffrite per questo.
Avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con EasyBank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. Si è voltato improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia? E voi chi dite che io sia?
È bello avere quello che ti serve quando ti serve. Con Easy Bank, la banca digitale di Intesa San Paolo.
Vi prego, vi imploro, con umiltà e con fiducia, permettete a Cristo di parlare all'uomo.
Don Gius aveva capito il problema che avevo. Se la tua vocazione è vero, il tuo lavoro verrà fuori anche dai sassi.
Di comunicare la fede agli altri, ma veramente insieme a loro riscoprire che cos'è la fede, che cos'è la fede per me. Portare Cristo agli altri, comunicarlo agli altri è l'unico modo che abbiamo per conoscerlo veramente.
L'iter communionis aiuta a comunicare all'esterno la ricchezza di vita, di giudizi, di tentativi, di opere che nascono dalle persone e dalle comunità. L'iter communionis è proprio la vita del movimento. Scrivete all'iter communionis le vostre esperienze, ci fate bene. chiesa si è voltata improvvisamente alla gente che era lì e ha detto: la gente che cosa dice che io sia? Chi dice che io sia?